breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, Dr. Glenn Harrison. What's up, bud?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk about this today because I actually had this encounter today with a patient.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had ant problems.
Oh, no, I did. I mean, I do have ant problems too, which we'll tie into this later. But yeah, so I had a patient today that was telling me about all the healthcare conscious efforts that they were making. I was like, well, give me an example. I'm not eating out anymore. And when I do eat out, I'm not eating French fries. It's like, good for you. Yeah, it's a good small start. I like it. I also stopped drinking Coca-Cola and now I am drinking Diet Coca-Cola. I was like, interesting.
That's nice.
Not as good as you would think. And today we are going to cover why. So if this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast or on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications because we're going to continue to roll out healthcare related topics each and every week. And you never know when we might cover something that'll be applicable to you. So today we are going to talk about low-calorie sweeteners.
Yes.
And what they are, what they do, and why they're not as healthy as everyone thinks they are.
And what they don't do.
What they don't do.
If we can get into that. But yeah, so why is it such a problem? And there's a great example you gave with a client of when they were told, they believed, they were trained, they were literally brainwashed that this is a better model, the diet, diet that
contains it in the name. It's got to be better for you, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is that it's seen in many circles as a better alternative to sugar, which is just truly not the case. It's in everything that's diet. It's in everything that's diet contains, low calorie sweeteners, and it's in tons and tons and tons of different types of foods. It's not only in just like pop or, soda or whatever you call it.
And it's very cheap.
In everything. It's so cheap. Yeah.
It's very cheap. So it's getting thrown at the public. The public are being told that it's diet. And I have a friend and sure he likes to add his, I know he's going to be listening to this too, and he knows I'm going to be talking about him. but I know he likes to add this diet soda with his rum. Well, the rum isn't always the best for everything in the body, but this diet soda, he's adamant by it. And I remember in the grocery store together, and I would tell him, I said, and then he knew what I called it. He said, okay, I'm going to go get some more rat poison or some ant poison. And I'm like, okay. So I guess I was talking about ant poison. I'll jump right into it right away, is because it's a neurotoxin, aspartame, especially, which is one of our,
one form of low calorie sweetener, right?
Yeah. Of choice. And it's one of the best things you can do to kill ants in your yard. And I know when I was in Minneapolis, there had lots of ants in the yard, and it was the best thing. I put everything on that lawn. It didn't put a dent into those ants, not like aspartame, because it's a neurotoxin, doesn't kill them right away. They take the food down to the queen, then the queen eats it, then the queen dies, and then you can take out the anthill. So next time you're shopping and you're buying something, think about, are you eating ant poison or are you not?
Other moral of the story there is if you're having an ant problem, going into your local diner and taking all the low calorie sweetener,
thinking you're going to save on your grocery bill. Yeah. No, not so much. So that's why it's important, I think, is because people are doing it because they're told one thing and they're going to avoid some problems, but they're only going to create problems. So, what are some of the risks? And if people are listening to this, they would have heard of some of the risks already. Fatty liver disease is a big one. It confuses the liver's metabolic processes to deal with glycogen. So fatty liver is a big reason. I think I was reading somewhere, they said one of the biggest contributors to fatty liver disease was modern day low calorie sweeteners. Isn't that crazy? And that's just one thing. I know you talked about the gut biome.
Yeah, it can alter your gut microbiome. The gut microbiome is super important because that's really how we digest, absorb, and manufacture everything. Energy, neurotransmitters, how it's a line of defense against pathogens. So when you start affecting the microbiome, you can have things like, decreased neurotransmitters. So then you can have things like depression or anxiety or whatever.
There's not one part of the body that isn't influenced by the biome.
Yeah.
And if you start messing with the biome with these artificial sweeteners, you got to remember, sweeteners trick the brain and they become addictive. These aren't natural, fruit sugars, if you will, that you're going to find in the proper quantities with the fiber in nature. So these artificial sweeteners are a beast. They're trickery. They're wizardry to your brain and your metabolic system. And I don't know. I just can't rant enough about this, but I'll maybe stop there for now. Neurological. You talked about neurological lesions, which I thought was really interesting.
There's actually been shown that like excess intake of low-calorie sweeteners, especially aspartame, can cause brain lesions.
Brain lesion is a brain injury.
Yeah, a lesion on your brain, right? There's actually a whole book about this. It was written, I think it was by, what's his name? Blaylock. It's called Neurotoxins, Excitotoxins That Kill or something like that. I read this a couple years ago. There's a whole book that talks about this stuff, about like MSG, about low-calorie sweeteners and all this stuff and how it affects your nervous system. So if you're interested, you want to give that a read. That's a really good read. Interesting to say the least.
Yeah. And then an insulin factor with this. So become insulin resistant, just like a classic diabetes, but you add artificial sweeteners, and again, it creates an addiction. What was there? There was a video I remember we learned about in school. It was called the Bitter Truth.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was the Bitter Truth, where it's on YouTube. It's ancient, but it's really good. And he talks about how these artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, I think was focused on how it changes your brain, changes your ability to be satisfied, creates enhanced cravings, and then naturally plugs up your liver, creates insulin resistance. It hits every part of the body. If there's one thing that you could do for your health, it would be look through your house and grab all of this junk and throw it away and go sprinkle it on your ant piles on your lawn. That's the one thing you should do, unless you really love ants. Well, then keep it away from them and keep your ants as a pet, because it will kill them. So, those are some things. Now, I know, you even talked about reproductive organs. I can't remember, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that was a study. I can't remember what I pulled it for. I found a study that actually showed that in lab rats, it actually affected their gonads, I think, in male rats. So it actually caused atrophy. And yeah, so something to think about when you're drinking your Diet Coke, right?
Yeah, your ant poison. Just call it ant poison. So I know we talked about what is the goal of the markets pushing artificial sweeteners. Well, I think there's cravings. So you have a consumer that's never going to be satisfied. So you just keep getting, and it's cheap. So that's one thing. And it has the front. It's going to create this perceived health benefits because they can put diet on the can.
Right.
And I think that is the buy-in. I think that is the biggest.
Yeah, it's just marketing, right? It's really, really, really effective marketing.
That's right. And I think there's one thing that, the food industry could do if they ever wanted to promote health would be to completely remove all this and use anything. Any kind of real sugar would be better than this. We're not even knocking sugar at this podcast. We're just knocking fake sugar.
Yeah. boy, how things have changed.
Yeah, that's right. That was like our alcohol podcast, right? Like, oh my goodness, we're trying to look for the least potent or the least problematic alcohol.
Yeah.
Which is another podcast. I think we released it. Yeah, it's released.
Yeah.
So what are some other healthy options? What could someone, if they don't want to have normal sugar, what else is out there?
Well, I think that when we say like normal sugar, right, that's like usually what they're talking about is cane sugar, right? Mm-hmm. Or when I think natural sugar, I think sugars that's present in like fruits or something like that. Yeah. And I'm totally fine with those in most cases because, like you talked about earlier, there's like it's like a ratio, right? So there's a certain amount of sugar, and then there's also fiber that helps to buffer some of the sugar response. You also get all these micro and macronutrients from the fruit. That's not what we're talking about. So if we're looking for substitutes for like cane sugar or a low-calorie sweetener, then stevia is an option. I know that you was it you that told me this, that some stevia is refined with petroleum?
Yeah, I learned that from a patient. And so just because these are, again, we've got to be careful with anything we're buying. And a lot of stevia is manufactured with petroleum. So, how clean and how safe is that? Even though it's marked as, stevia, it's a natural sugar. Be careful how this stuff is being processed. As soon as the human hands get on something and start, messing with things, so be careful what you're buying. And a lot of products that are using stevia, they're getting the cheapest bidder. So you're getting the cheapest sourced petroleum refined stevia. So be careful with this stuff. There's a few others. I know some of the supplements that we use, nutritional supplements, they'll use monk fruit, preventing as much of an insulin spike to create a little.
And still makes it taste like palatable.
Yeah, exactly. Erythritol. Yeah. Yep. Do you see much of that out there anymore? I think I'm seeing some of it.
Yeah, I see it a lot in like gum. To tell you the truth, like they'll use it as a flavoring in gum.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And then of course, I always, when I have patients that are looking for something to make sweeten things up, I always go back to the original sources. Go back to maybe a little bit of dates or honey or maple syrup. It doesn't take that much, and at least you're just getting it from the source. At the end of the day, there's nothing better than really the way nature intended it to be. Our physiology is and nature is just a puzzle of interlocking pieces, and what we consume in nature is going to be the perfect fit for our bodies, our physiology, things we still don't understand, and if we do that, we're not going to end up with all these nasty surprises down the road, like diabetes. Diabetes is not supposed to be normal in nature like we see it in the Western world. Alzheimer's is not supposed to be normal, and dementia in, early, like we're seeing, and the cases like we're seeing. So when we break one of the puzzle pieces and we think we can just jam some gum in there in the middle, it's not going to work out.
So if you're using it, stop. Right. That's the takeaway from this is if you're using low calorie sweeteners, maybe reconsider your decision. Look at some of the alternatives that we talked about. And again, if you guys would like to reach out to us with any questions or comments or concerns, or even like additional ideas that you would like us to do on the podcast, you can get a hold of us. Our email associated with the podcast is called info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. You can get us on our websites. Mine is www.northlakeschiropractic.com. Dr. Glenn's is www.drgharrison.com. And again, stay tuned because we are going to continue to roll out new content each and every week, and hopefully we'll hit on something that applies to you and helps you in your life. So
that's right. All right. Well, I like that, Dr. Kolby. We know what to feed our aunts and our friends.
Well, not to feed our other aunts or aunts, I guess.
Yeah, aunts. All right. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.